1996 Mercury Cougar. I just washed under the hood and now it's running really badly. I know what I need to do, but I just wanted to share it with you in case anybody finds this information useful. Was previously running okay, but you know, I knew it needed a tune-up. Definitely got a misfire now. It was bad enough that the plug wire or the check engine light was actually flashing, and if you know anything about 1996 Fords, if the check engine light's flashing, you know it's bad because Fords don't ever set misfire codes. Put it in gear. Definitely you can tell it's misfiring. Okay, I'm just going to check codes real quick. I'll show you what's under the hood, and then I'm going to go get the tune-up parts to fix this because I need to drive this tomorrow. Alright, so for codes, just using the basic code reader. Don't need anything fancy for this. EVAP code that it already had, we will deal with that in a later date. P0420 code, that's new to me. I don't know if that was pre-existing before this misfire, but we might have to come back to that at a later date also. The P0301 Misfire code, and like I said, if a Ford is actually setting a misfire code, you know it's bad. And P0171 lean. I also had lean codes, but we will be dealing with those at a later date also. So today we're only dealing with the misfire code, the misfire condition, etc. Under the hood here, like I said, I just rinsed it down. Someone's already replaced one wire and cylinder one, that's the one in question. You know, there's some obvious mice damage. This wire here has been chewed, and that could be entirely it also. I mean, look at that, there's like barely hanging on by a thread. So I need to get a new connector for that. Need to get plugs and wires and do a tune-up real quick. Might have to do that today so I can drive it tomorrow.
He drives a black one.
Yeah, might be able to take a different vehicle. Yeah, that would explain why it's been pushed up in my trap. That's a problem. And that's a new serpentine belt, by the way, so I'm not exactly sure why it keeps making noise like that. So just gonna have to dump some more money into it, you know, as usual. How about this? To get me by today, can I steal a fuel injector connector off of this Crown Victoria? 2003 Crown Victoria, sitting in dead storage. This thing actually runs and drives. It just has a lack of overdrive, and the front end got splattered by a deer. So unfortunately, it's been sitting in this hellhole for so long that this car is just becoming decrepit. Hopefully there's not a body in there, right? I'm just kidding. But I think that if you would like to see a video on this car, get it pulled out of here, get it cleaned up, and get it running again, let me know, and I will do that. Today, though, I think I'm going to see if I can steal the connector off of it. And I cannot because it's a totally different connector, so I'm not going to do that. Hopefully there's not a bunch of like... Oh, now it's not going to sit down. Hopefully there's not a bunch of rodent damage to the wiring and all that because it's been sitting like this for so long. Okay, so I think I'm gonna have to run to the store and get a fuel injector connector, but it's a Sunday and that's not likely. Cut that connector off so I can attempt to make a repair, even though there's like zero wiring even left to do. They do have the part in stock at the parts store, but it's a 45-minute drive and I have to go to town tomorrow anyway, so that's not going to happen. So if I can rig this back together just good enough today so I can go get that part tomorrow. Take that seal off of there. And I'm sure that this camera is not going to really focus very well, but hopefully you can see enough detail, because I don't have enough hands to like hold the camera, zoom in and all that. But I'm going to take this yellow clip off, which is going to be the one that holds the terminals from being unlocked. And come on, focus. I'm going to try and take these terminals out. There's a couple little tangs you need to lift up gently with a pick. And I'm going to try and get these out of here and see if there's enough wiring that I can reconnect it. It's either that or I'm going to go back up to that Crown Victoria and see if I can find a Bosch connector like this. I think it's a Bosch type connector, because I think that that car might have a similar connector on it somewhere. Garbage. I do have the proper tools to do this, but not here. And like I said, I got to drive that car tomorrow to work. So there's that terminal. Basically, like, it's green inside. And I'm just going to take one out at a time so I don't get them mixed up. Basically, I'm going to show you a little more detail with this camera that I can actually zoom in on. And let me get the angle of the sunlight just right. So you can see the plastic tang that I lifted up on the one side, and that side still has the tang holding the terminal in. And the wire's in really bad shape. This is the wire I'm going to attempt to strip it off. Focus, you piece of... Now, as you can see, that is a green crusty wire, and there's probably not even enough clean copper under this insulation to make a repair. But like I said, I'm just trying to patch it together just good enough so I can drive it 45 minutes to the parts store, pick up that new connector, and properly repair it with a new connector. I'm going to try and strip this off with the cheapest, crappiest wire strippers you could ever get. And I'm going to try and do it gently. Of course not. Of course not. Yeah, I mean, there's kind of... Let me get the other camera. Yeah, there's really... I mean, it's just green and crusty. It's not even worth the trouble to even try to repair this, but... Could it be done in a pinch? Absolutely. You could strip this off completely bare. Probably clean it up and solder on another solder, let's say it correctly, solder. We could solder on a chunk of wire and get us by to the next day. But I think I'm going to go back up to that Crown Victoria and see if I can find a connector I can use. Because that Crown Victoria ain't going to be back on the road anytime soon. Okay, folks, we are going full hillbilly here for this temporary repair. Try and clean up this soldering iron. I've got questionable solder. I don't even know what this stuff is. There's like a pile of stuff. Most of this is like plumbing solder and flux. Like this is non-electrical, I'm pretty sure. Non-electrical, and this is like maybe for electrical, but the tin is so rusted I don't even know if I can get that thing open. So, you know, as usual, everything working against you when you're working on cars. And it's got to be done tomorrow, of course. Okay, full hillbilly. This is probably the completely wrong flux, and when you're using the completely wrong flux, you're probably better off not using it at all. And I'm going to try and pre-tin this like you're supposed to. And of course it's completely contaminated, as you can see. That's why I need to like pre-tin this and clean it. before I even attempt this. And like I said, totally questionable on what type of solder this even is. Always got to be something. Yeah. Okay, where's my little piece of wire, my terminal that I probably lost? This is not going to work, folks. This is definitely not the right way to do this, I'll tell you that. Actually, you know what can I use to hold this? Don't have my helping hands. This is not even my garage today, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm working, just got everything against me right now. This is not going to work. Just a little bit of solder. Yeah, this is not going to work. Garbage. Alright, this is going to be a temporary repair attempt, and it's going to be nasty. It's going to be messy. It ain't going to work the way that I need it to work, and this is absolutely not the right way to do it. Like I said, I gotta get this car running tonight so I can drive it tomorrow. Or I'll just take a different car tomorrow. We'll see. Ideally, I would be able to take the Cougar as planned. Of course, this is not gonna stay together, so I can do the repair. I don't have helping hands to hold it for me. Garbage. Okay, let's try this again. Now the soldering iron's a little too hot. It's contaminated. Absolutely not the right way to do this. This is probably the completely wrong flux, completely wrong solder. There's no labels on anything. I don't know what this stuff is. Okay. Can it be done? Let's find out. Get a little solder on there so that we can get some heat transfer. Garbage. Look at that. Okay, somewhat working. Like I said, it'll be good enough for a temporary repair. Flow that in a little better. There we go. Yeah. Let that cool down, and I'm going to put some heat shrink on it. How lucky, there just happens to be a heat gun in this garage. Look at that. Okay, here's a little bit of heat shrink. Temporary repair. Should be sufficient. Put this back in. Which orientation does it go? Running out of daylight too. It's probably the wrong way, or the big blob of solder is for preventing me from putting it in all the way, right? Of course. It's too much of a blob now. I can almost shove it in there. Always got to be something. Yeah, it's too big of a blob on the back of that connector. But whatever. Okay, got it in there. Now I've just got to take this other terminal out and do the same repair and hope for the best. same process on this one. And of course this wire has even less to work with, but that's okay. The mark of a good mechanic / automotive technician is if you can get the job done with the bare minimum, right? Okay, I'm going to plug in the soldering iron again. Okay, here we go. Doing it the wrong way, part 2. I added a little red piece of heat shrink so I can remember which one's which. Okay. There we go. Let that flow in. Good enough. Grab my heat shrink. Okay. Of course, it can never just be straightforward and easy once you got something like this going on, right? Okay, temporary emergency repair. Don't rip on me too much. That is sufficient. Put it back in the connector here, connector body. Unless I'm putting it in the wrong direction. It was. Okay, that was the wrong direction. Snapped right in, perfect. And I can probably get this seal back on here. Doesn't look like it matters which way that goes. Oh no, now I forgot which one's the red one, but that's alright. I'll look at the other connectors for reference. Because my little red piece I took off and I instantly forgot which one's which. That's not bad for an emergency temporary repair though, look at that. Imagine if you couldn't even get this connector, this would be legit. You'd be back on the road. Seal back in here and go attach it to the car. Gently push that in there with the pick without cutting it or poking it. Okay, it's sufficient. Look at that. Emergency temporary repair. Okay, we're doing the temporary repair here, and there's not much wire to work with, and I don't have any of the self-sealing shrinking butt splices, so I guess I'm going to solder it in on this end too. And realistically, I've been working with the bare minimum all my life, and this might end up being one of those temporary repairs that ends up being a long-term temporary repair, and it stays on the vehicle forever. You never know. Not hot enough just yet. Need a little more heat, come on. Okay, let that flow in. Did not forget the heat shrink. I already slipped the heat shrink onto the wires. Okay. I'm going to say it again. This is not necessarily the right way to do this, but this is all I've got right now. Okay. Let that flow in. Beautiful. Okay, how does the temporary repair look? Not too bad. This is going to be a long-term temporary repair watch. Start it up and see what she does. Well, it's still misfiring, so it still needs plugs and wires, but I tried. So, like I said, it was previously running more or less just fine before I washed under the hood, and I knew with the chewed up plug wires it was going to be an issue, but whatever. I'm going to try and just erase the code just in case that's the reason why it's still misfiring. Some sort of stored code that's disabling that cylinder. No, still misfiring. Well, I probably should have recorded that. I pulled the plug wire off, and yeah, we got spark, but I think that plug hole is full of water. Okay, so pulled the plug wire out. Like I said, I washed it down. I knew this was going to be a problem. And yeah, just like I thought. That hole's full of water, full of crap. I bet if I just blew it clean, that would be good enough to get me by. I'll have to pull out the water hose and do some hillbilly water cleaning out of that hole. The Dr. Seuss air compressor going. Look at this. I just opened up this valve to drain the water. Look at this. What is that? Oh, it's like so full of crap that it won't even come out. Unbelievable. Okay, the Dr. Seuss air compressor is still going. This is the only air one that I could find. Look at that, way too long, but I guess it'll keep this crap from blowing all over me. Probably. This is a nightmare. Smells like rodent. Where's the hole? There it is. Better than it was, I'll tell you that. Of course, this wand is so long I can't even get it in there. I gotta go find something else. Alright, how about this piece of crap that I just found? set the camera up so that it will get absolute. Of course, this is going to be right in the way. And that hole is just packed full of crap. And way overdue for a tune-up. So yes, I am still going to do the tune-up, and I don't know if I'm going to do that in this video or I'm going to make a totally separate video for the tune-up. We'll see what we're doing for length, but at this point, this is going to be the Hillbilly temporary connector repair. I just got blasted with rodent feces, rodent droppings and all that, and all over the camera, and I'm real happy about that, but at least it's clean and dry at this point. And I can put this wire back on. I'll have to grab a rag and wipe that dry, blow that clean, hook it back up, and it'll probably run okay just for, you know, to get me down the road till tomorrow. Okay, absolutely blasted with, just got absolutely blasted with rodent poop. You can't get your hand in there. I love working on cars, you know that. Okay, this is just gonna be just good enough to get me through. Get me to the next day, get me to the next town, right? I'm gonna need both my hands to get that on there, but you get the idea. All right, let's hope for the best. Is it gonna still be misfiring? Oh, it's running good now. Kind of. I'm sure it's still got more spark plug wells that are full of water. Oh yeah, full power now. Alright, so like I said, I'm going to go get those tune-up parts tomorrow, and depending on runtime on this video currently, we might have to do a tune-up video after this. And again, there's an EVAP code that we're going to do a separate video on, and there's lean codes that I'm going to do a separate video on. And since I cleared the codes, we're going to have to wait and see if that catalytic converter code comes back, and that would be a separate video also. So, if this is the end, then this is the end, and thank you for watching. And that stupid belt, the belt noise keeps coming back, and that's a new belt, so that needs investigated also.